Christians in Lebanon, Christians in Syria. They lived. You look like an Arab type Christian yourself. Where are you from? Iraq. Now, did Christians not live in Iraq side by side with the Muslims?
Yeah, they do.
Right.
But
So how is that?
They're under persecution, though. The Christians.
They're under persecution maybe now. Maybe now. Maybe now. Because now, no.
Throughout the Ottoman Empire as well.
Maybe now.
If you look, the oldest church is actually preserved in the Middle
Do you
East
deny that?
by the Muslims.
They were under
Why,
persecution.
why when the Jewish
Elsewhere,
people
they
were
are gone.
persecuted, why did they come to Islamic lands?
So hang on. So people who were living in Iraq historically, the Coptic Egyptians and so on and so on, you're saying that they were never under persecution until now?
I never said never, never. There might be a time in a historical time period where there might have been unjustified persecution of a religious minority. This is something that we see in every religious belief system, that there are minorities sometimes because of a corrupt ruler, not because of the corrupt system, the law, but the corrupt individual oppresses the minority.
Even the Christians persecuted Christians. The
Yes,
Catholics,
of
when they
course.
were in power,
Yeah.
look around. They persecuted
What
the
if-
Yeah, so let's go back.
What if the persecutor does so in the name of their religion, and you can connect it to ayat and hadith that substantiate?
Like what? Let's
their
hear
position?
them. Let's hear them.
Like, for example, taxing non-believers, a jizya tax.
And how is that persecution?
Well, it's unfair treatment. It's basically saying one party is lower than the other party.
It's the other way around.
Look, believer and a non-believer,
He'll tell you.
a believer and a non-believer, as I mentioned to you already, in the sight of God, they're not equal. You have to really understand that framework. In the sight of God, the one that sees,
You're agreeing.
listen,
You're agreeing.
the one who is knowledgeable and one who is not, the one who is in truth and one who is in falsehood, in the sight of God, it's not the same.
Okay.
If you disagree with the framework, then we can talk.
That's a different argument.
It's not a different argument.
That's in the sight of God. I'm talking about in the context
Now,
of how man.
when God,
Listen to what I'm saying, because you don't know.
okay, explain.
Yeah, like so in terms of how man treats each other in a society where you have party A and party B.
Yeah.
What if party A, who let's say I agree and we'll go with what you're saying to that they're not the same in the eyes of God. What about if party A wants to be treated equally under the same law, but they don't?
The law is determined by God. So if God says this is how you have the rights of the believer,
You believe,
excuse me,
Sorry. Yeah.
because this distinction between believer and non-believer, between a criminal and an innocent individual, in every society there are distinctions. A police cannot treat an innocent and the guilty the same. Cannot. So in the eyes of God, they are different. But they still have certain legal rights, certain economic rights, certain social rights, and so on and so forth. God deals with that so that people are dispensed in a framework in which they can live within this paradigm. But when it comes to, for example, certain times Muslims will be under much more obligation than the non-Muslims. You will say that's unfair. They've been burdened or overburdened and you let them get free. But we don't hear these kind of things.
Can I just say, because
Did
you
you-
mentioned, so I want to respond to it.
But did you see what I just
I
said?
understand what you're saying.
Can you
You're
respond to that point
you're adding
first?
You're adding a third.
No, I want you to address this point first. When non-Muslims see and watch that the Muslims have been overburdened by a lot of do's and don'ts and regulations, while non-Muslims are let loose easily, they don't have that kind of burdening on their shoulders. Why don't you then say, unfair, we should have the equal amount of burden?
It's a very vague. I don't know what you're talking about. I'd like to-
That's the real issue,
very
because
vague.
you need to know that there are real
Can I
distinctions.
respond?
Go ahead.
Because I think now that there's cameras and more people,
That-
now it's like
I didn't invite them.
Because at the beginning we were listening
I'll
more
be
to each
honest
other.
with
And
you, I
now it's
never
like,
understood.
I didn't invite them. If you want a conversation without the camera, we can go over there, no problem.
Just let me finish my sentence. I'm not saying that you invited. I'm saying now that there's more eyes on, now we're not listening to each other as much. Whereas we were at the beginning, we were having.
I didn't even know there were cameras. So I was listening to you.
All right. Anyway, you added it.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I'm just saying, cameras or not, we were listening more to each other, and now we're not. So let me just respond to your first point, because you mentioned an interesting point.
Look, more.
You were saying, because you added a third ingredient. You added an ingredient of, those who disobey the law are treated differently by the police. I'm not including that third ingredient. I'm saying that there's party A, party B. They're both following the law. They're both law-abiding citizens. They want to be treated fairly and equally under the law, right? Regardless of their religious beliefs. Islam doesn't, an Islamic system doesn't allow for that to happen, because you've just said that under the eyes of God they're not equal, whereas I'm saying that actually under the Christian ethics, under a Christian society, you will be treated equally. Muslims.
We need to ask. Assalamu alaikum.
Is that from the Bible or from your own opinion?
So I would like you to substantiate from the
Where in
Bible.
the Bible does it say that everyone
It's
in a
very
government?
clear, treat others as
No,
you
wait,
want to
wait.
be treated.
Before you say it's very clear, do you have the reference where in the Bible it says treat everyone equally? Because when we looked at the past, all the Christians were treated.
Look it up.
Was it?
Galatians 3:28.
What does it say?
There is neither Jew nor Greek.
Yeah.
Let me see it. Chat GPT is really good nowadays. You know, you can just put it
Yeah,
up.
pull it up.
Let's pull up Romans as well.
Yes, تفضل. Come.
Romans 13:7.
He's okay with the conversation. People.
This is turned to a theological argument rather than.
Yes, I'm interested in a theological argument.
Galatians 3:28
Yeah.
states, "There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male or female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus."
Okay, now let's see what Paul says in Romans 13. It says, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established." So if God establishes authority, you have no choice but to submit.
Read that again. Read that again.
No problem. You read it if you think.
Okay, you okay with me holding
Yeah,
it?
sure.
All right.
We
Let
just want
everyone
your
be
fingerprint
subject
on
to
it.
the governing authorities, which means the law that's governing the current state, right?
Yeah. So if it's the Sharia, you have to obey it.
Exactly, which is why I'm saying it's not good to live in an Islamic.
But your God is saying you have to
let me
obey.
reply. I just heard you reply.
Yeah.
Now let me reply to your
Go on.
reply. So which that's exactly my point.
Which is?
I'm saying to you that under an Islamically run state, it allows for unequal treatment.
No,
of two different
no. He never said
believers and
unequal treatment.
disbelievers.
He never said unequal treatment. But you hold
Okay,
on.
hang on. What if he just did?
No,
What
he
did I
said
say?
they are in the
Were
sight
you
of
listening?
God, they are not same. So, for example,
Yeah,
if you,
which means
it's the same for Christians. You, as a believer, in the sight of God, are you equal to the disbeliever? Are you equal to the pagans?
I want to answer
No, you're
this
not.
first. No, I don't want to.
I don't think you understood what he said.
No, I want to stick to the main point.
Yeah, go on.
I don't
By
want
the
to
way, have you understood that, the first bit?
I'll read that in a minute, but that's kind of taking us away. I just noticed we're getting
Actually,
taken
no,
away from
he
the
read
main point.
Galatians,
So hang
I
on,
showed you Romans.
So going back
You
to
have
your
no
point.
choice but to obey the Sharia.
Wait a second,
according to
bro,
that.
bro.
Yeah, sure. Go on.
So your main point. So I actually want to get back to that. So you were saying that under the eyes of God, the believer is not equal to the non-believer.
I never used the word equal. I said they are not the same.
Which means that they're not equal.
Sorry?
Which means they're not equal, right?
Are you trying to say?
Firstly, when God makes a distinction between the believer and the disbeliever, if they are treated the same, then the consequence should be the same.
Yes.
But he sends some people to hell.
Yes.
Why?
Do you see, even in Christianity, it's the same.
Okay, yeah.
So
Fine.
God-
But that's not. Hang on. But we're talking about a different thing.
No. This
We're
is
talking about how man
this is
treats
the
another.
no. Man will have to treat according to the law of God. If God
not
treats,
talking about God's
if
judgment.
God, if
You're
God,
asking after
if
someone
God
dies.
distinguishes between two groups of people, right, believer and disbeliever, the believing community who are going to enforce in a state level this law, they will have to make sure this is implemented. So they cannot treat differently than how God treats. Are you saying men will treat people different than God, even though they're a believer in God?
Well, hang on. But you believe
I
that
am
there should
hanging.
be a jizya tax, no?
Okay, let me deal with the
right?
jizya. Okay,
That's
what is your
unequal treatment, right?
objection with the jizya tax? Let's start with that.
Because it's
What do you
une-
understand by jizya tax? Let's start with that.
Hang on. But would you agree that it's unequal treatment?
No,
for
before
non-believers?
you make that decision
If
or
I'm a
conclusion,
non-believer and
bro,
I don't want to pay a
bro,
jizya tax,
you need to understand what the jizya is before you make a conclusion. So, what is jizya according to you?
Let's see what you're going to say. So, if I don't want to pay a jizya tax, because we're going to be here forever. If I'm talking to everyone, I want to speak to one person.
Sure.
So
In a state, the state requires you to do some things for the state. The state may impose certain things on you, like taxes. If you don't want to pay taxes, then you have to deal with the law of the state. They might say you have to be imprisoned, you have to be punished.
everyone
For you.
taxed equally?
One second. The state will determine if it's a theocratic state. Based on God's law, it will be determined like that. So let me try to understand. So in Christianity and in Islam, you are saying in Christianity, everyone is treated equally. So that means the slave, the master, they have the same right and the same treatment. In Christianity?
No. let's not move the goalposts.
I'm not moving the goalposts. I'm trying to understand equality. One second. One second.
You introduced a third ingredient.
One
criminals
second.
and non-criminals.
One second.
I'm not talking about.
I want to understand.
Criminal and non-criminal.
I want to understand. I want to understand. In the sight of God, in Christianity, for example, is a slave and a master treated equally in the sight of God?
There is no slavery today.
I didn't ask you that. In the
Anyway,
the Bible talks about slavery. Did Jesus abolish slavery?
Hang on, but Jesus didn't admonish a bunch of things.
Did he abolish
That's in the New
slavery?
Testament.
You're talking about lots of different things. Man.
That's in the New Testament.
Did Jesus abolish slavery?
Bro, you're talking about a different.
Look, I want you to
Let's see.
to have a sincere conversation with me. Did Jesus abolish slavery?
No, he didn't say outright that slavery should be abolished.
Why did he not abolish
Were the
slavery?
slaves treated equally?
Why did he not abolish slavery when, in your mind, slavery is a lower state than a free man? Why did he not abolish it?
Because the way that the system was built back then, it would be absurd to abolish slavery just straight away. No, it wouldn't be possible.
So where did he command?
It's like, look,
Where did he command, encourage?
I've heard Bob say an argument against.
I'm
this.
not
It's a very
interested
good
in someone else. I'm having a discussion with you.
I'm responding to you though.
So,
You just asked me.
but my question is a clarification.
Listen.
What clarification?
I respect your decorum that you came here with.
Come on,
and
answer.
listen,
Go ahead.
Listen.
It's
I
your
respect
time.
the-
It's your time to speak.
res-
I will listen.
I respect the exchange that we had at the beginning.
Continue.
It was very respectful. I like it. But we need to listen to each other. Right? So what I'm trying to say to you is, imagine if someone comes in, but this is a really good perspective from Bob. He raises a really good answer to this. Imagine if someone comes in and says, look, let's just abolish money. Just abolish it. Because at some point in the future, in 1,000 years, they might say, well, money is wrong. You shouldn't be working with money. You should just be treating people fairly and blah, blah, blah. And they somehow work out a system where they don't need money. Right? So you can say, oh, why didn't we just abolish money now? You can't, because you can't run the world like that. Just like back then, slavery was so common, and it was like if someone is in so much debt to someone else, a way for them to avoid to get around that, right, and not paying that, is to enslave themselves to the other person for a few years. It was that common, right? So to say in a world like that, let's just abolish slavery, it just won't work. However, what he did do is he paved the way for the freedom of slaves.
Like
he
how?
came to free the captives.
Like how?
There are clear verses in the Bible where he said where he makes an appeal to free the slaves, and also you can see it in St. Paul's letter to the Romans as well,
No,
where
actually,
he
it's
makes
not.
an appeal to
This is what I see in the Bible. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling, with a sincere heart, as you would Christ. So they have to give the same respect to the masters as they give to the Christ, to God. Would you wait a minute? There's more to this.
Because he says leading to one person. Okay. Slaves in Ephesians 6:5, the Holy Bible. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling, with a sincere heart, as you would Christ. Do you see the command here? Do you see a command here?
Ask ChatGPT what.
The slaves should be freed.
Against black people in the past, by the way. My ancestors.
Let all slaves regard their masters as worthy of honor, so that the name of God and teaching may not be reviled. 1 Timothy 6:1. Was Paul abolishing slavery? Or was he saying you should rather
Actually,
accept?
read the last bit again.
If
I
someone
don't
is
think
in
you heard
debt,
it.
if someone is in debt and they
Let all slaves, because he asked me to read it again. You can, of course.
Pressing me for an answer when I start answering you.
Okay, go ahead and answer.
If someone is in a lot of debt right now, right, and you were to seek financial advice from someone you respect, they would say to you, look, sort your finances accordingly so that you can pay this debt off, right? That would be a sensible thing to do. Otherwise, you go to jail, right? Ultimately, otherwise you go to jail.
Depends who you are.
So it's the same thing. If you are in that kind of world where slavery is unheard of for it to be abolished, it's just that it's like walking in the park. It's like part of life back then, right? If they'd say to you, well, you know what, you don't need to listen to your earthly masters, disobey them, because you shouldn't be enslaved anyway. What how crazy? Like
Compare that to
that's a
Islam.
laughable.
Compare that to Islam. Compare that to Islam. You cannot have any
It
enslavement.
is good. But back
You
then, it would have been unheard of.
compare.
Today, it would be like.
Okay, compare that to Islam.
But you raise a good
You cannot have any enslavement apart from captives of war. That's the only way at that time that can be dealt with, right? Captives of war. At that time, only when people are in war with each other, that's the only place.
Funny, man.
I don't want to speak to him because he's a very toxic individual.
I don't care.
Earlier on, he threatened me.
He just said that he will smack his head.
I will beat you to death if you ever.
Can you move a little bit? Focus his face, zoom in a bit more.
Let's touch him.
Everyone in the park, where you
Zoom in, so his beautiful face is seen.
You just committed a crime. What did you do on camera? Smart man.
So that's why he's toxic, right? So coming back to you again.
Anyway, yeah, you're smart.
In the Bible, no, I'm fasting. In the Bible, do you think God deals equally with the people in terms of interest, usury, and usury?
What do you mean in terms of interest?
Can you charge interest to if you're a Jew, can you charge interest to a Jew? Can you charge interest to a non-Jew?
I don't know enough to tell you.
Yeah, you can't charge interest between yourselves, but you can charge interest otherwise. That's why the whole banking system,
Christianity or Judaism?
according to the Bible, because the Bible,
The Bible has the Old Testament.
the Old Testament was revealed by who?
Talking about Christianity.
Old Testament revealed by who? By God, your God, same God that
The New Testament completes the Old Testament.
did Jesus come to change things?
Are you talking about Jewish law? Or
I'm talking about the law of God.
Jewish belief? Or are you talking
Law of
about
God, law of God, law of God. So,
the laws changed. The laws that humans follow changed.
did God change those laws?
Yes.
Where?
Yes.
Where did God say interest is no longer?
After the coming of Christ, the
Now, I want to know about interest. What does the New Testament teach you about interest? What is the teaching about interest from the New Testament?
I don't know.
Then how can you say it's changed if you don't know?
I'm asking you.
I'm saying.
I'm asking you. No. We're saying it's changed. I said a bunch of things have changed from the Old Testament to the New Testament. I'm not talking about interest has changed. That's a different argument. Don't put words. I'm saying to you. I'm asking you. Are you talking about Jewish beliefs?
I'm talking about the Bible. Bible.
That's not a response because
The Bible talks about. Are you saying the part of the Bible is redundant?
no.
Then that's what I'm talking about. The Bible. No.
But you're not listening to what I'm saying.
What are you saying?
You're not actually.
What are you
arguing
saying?
against my words.
What are you saying?
I might as well put a straw man here and argue.
No,
against
what
that.
am I-
You can argue with it.
I'm gonna go. What are you
You want to
saying?
know what I'm arguing against?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'm saying.
What
are
has
you-
changed?
Are you saying? Are you saying this is according to Jewish law, or and Jewish belief, or Christian belief? And your answer
Christian
is,
belief.
I'm saying according to the Bible.
Christian belief.
That's not an answer.
Okay, Christian belief.
Okay, fine.
Do Christians believe in the Old Testament?
They believe that happened. Yes. Sure.
Do they believe in the Old Testament?
Yeah, they believe it. I've just answered.
So they believe in it. Were the laws in the Old Testament from God, the same God that you believe in today?
No, because I've already answered this. I don't know why we're going. Like, look, and you know the answer.
What is my
I've
question that you
spoken to a
answer?
lot of
No.
people
What is the
who
question that
answered
you're
this
answering?
question.
What is the question that you're addressing now? The question that I asked?
You're asking me, do I believe in the Old Testament?
That's past.
And do I believe that I should follow the laws laid down in the Old Testament today?
Is that what I said?
Is that what you're asking?
No, you're not listening.
Fine, correct me.
You're not listening. Right. Were those laws revealed by God, the same God that you believe in today?
They believe in the Jew. Oh, the same. Yeah. It's the same.
Right.
Correct.
So God revealed at one point that you should charge interest to the non-Jew, but not to the Jew. I want you to now explain to me, in the New Testament, has this law been abrogated or is still applicable?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know enough to tell you.
Why don't you chat GPT it if you want? Because earlier on you're doing the same.
Talmud. What's that?
Yeah?
Sorry.
Because that's that will be very relevant. Because if you have no law that replaces the Old Testament law, that law should be still applicable to you because you believe in the same God.
I'm sure there is an answer to
Right.
this. I mean, I just don't know.
Okay.
I don't know enough.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying in the
Well, it's a
Bible,
really good question.
in the Bible,
I'll write down. That's a good question.
yeah. So in the Bible, there is no equal treatment between people. That's what the biblical picture is. So that's why you can't simply say like, oh, I am being treated differently. God treats people differently. He treats the criminal different from the innocent people. That's in the eyes of God. Because justice...
No, let's not do that. I've already answered. I've already said you're adding in third...
I'm not adding anything. I'm clarifying my point.
Bro, you are. Because I'm not talking about criminals and non-criminals, slaves and non-slaves. I'm talking about people A and people B.
What kind of people?
Treated differently according to them, their belief, their religious beliefs.
Okay,
so
according
you're
to...
adding other ingredients.
Okay.
Let's not do that.
Okay. No. You are trying to, justify the belief which is not based on the Bible. That's what you're trying to do. But regardless, if in a society run by Christian law, right? Run by Christian law.
There is no Christian law.
So God didn't reveal a law.
There's no Christian law.
So are you saying God has not revealed a guidance in terms of law how to run a society?
There's a description for how Christians should behave and how they should conduct themselves. But there's no law. It's very different to Islam. Islam, there is a prescriptive law.
So God doesn't want you to live by His law.
Hang on, let me just write your thing, because that's a really good question. What part of the New... Do you know... That's a really good question. What part of the New Testament changes the interest? That's a good question.
Can I ask you a different question, both of you? Why do you believe the Bible is true?
Actually, you know what? Maybe an answer to this would be that because the flock has been expanded to not just the Jews, but everyone is under the same flock. Maybe then, I think that's actually probably why. Obviously, I'll research it as well.
Please do.
Probably an answer to that is that now because
perhaps we can talk another time when you do have an answer.
We're all one under Christ. Now we don't need to charge interest to people who are non-Jews.
So the question I asked both of you: why do you think the Bible is true? Why do you believe the Bible is true?
Hang on, do you believe it? Okay, you clearly believe it's not true. Why do you believe it's not true, though?
I can give you my reasons, but I want to know from your faith perspective.
Brother, I'm here.
Look.
To learn.
Please.
So you
I will.
Why do you think
God willing, I will. But I would like to know from you, as a believer, if you ask my brother here, why do you believe the Quran is true? He will speak to you until next Sunday.
It's a load of shit.
Right? There are reasons to believe. So we would like to know, in a fair way, why do you consider or believe the Bible to be true? So let's learn something from you.
Because it was inspired by the Holy Spirit, by several authors who've contributed to it over thousands of years. It's proven, it's got a bunch of prophecies that have been somehow, hundreds of them, that have come to truth and come to reality. It proves itself, really, in a bunch of ways. But yeah, why do you, I'm interested to hear your argument.
So
why do you believe it's not?
Do you want to add something to it?
I'd say one of the things that I find most compelling is there is no benefit to any of the disciples.
Are you a Christian?
Oh,
praise the Lord, praise the Lord. You know, it's so funny. I want to ask him, right?
Spreading the word.
He believes in Isa.
Everyone else.
He believes in Isa, but in Arabic it's
I can't hear you
Yeshua,
because
right?
of him. You have to tell him. He's another toxic individual. So you have to really calm him down.
He believes in
Otherwise,
the
we can't have a conversation.
At the same time, he'll say, the Quran says,
By the way,
kill the disbelievers
he's a
wherever you
toxic
find them.
individual in the park, so we can't have a conversation if he comes in and interjects. I even alerted the police on him earlier on.
Wait, and what did the police tell you? What did the police tell you? You don't even know the word.
So if you want to,
what it means.
He can't speak civilized way.
yeah.
Why not?
So if you want to have a conversation, I would love to have a conversation with you, but not toxic people like him when they interject.
If he sees your face again, you try to talk with him, he won't talk with you.
That's fine. I mean,
That's how he is. I call that cowardice.
that's fine. I mean, I'm interested to hear his perspective.
Sure.
Okay.
So let me hear what you've added. So this gentleman here, my dear gentleman, what's your name? Raf Mansur.
I've been talking for an hour, he never asked me your name.
George. Raf and George. I'm Mansur. This is my brother here, Najmul.
I'm Jew.
Right. The discussion we're having, toxic individual, stay away from them. That's what I'm doing. Right. So, what I'm simply
Fight
saying,
those who don't believe
in
Allah.
fact, why do you? I can't have a conversation. Right? So I asked you and you answered, right? You said inspiration. There are a lot of people who inspired and they wrote down. You also said about prophecies. Lots of prophecies. They came true. Your friend here, George, said there are disciples of Christ. They had nothing to gain, nothing to lose, and yet they sacrificed their life for that faith. So dying for that faith is demonstrative of truthfulness of this faith.
No.
So
Dying is not. Dying
To
for
clarify-
beliefs is not.
I don't want to strawman you. Please tell me exactly what the point you were trying to make.
Key is okay. So Jesus died on the cross, came back to life. So there is no benefit to any of them to go out spreading the word of Jesus Christ after that. That is what I'm guessing at.
And there's it, and
How-
hang on,
so-
and also to add to what he's saying.
Can I understand his point though before you add? So make it into an argument. Like, what is this supposedly a reason for the veracity or truthfulness of the Bible? Because I asked you, why do you believe the Bible is true? And your response was, after Christ's crucifixion, these disciples have nothing to gain, and yet they still preached and live
He's saying they're
as
very
Christians.
unlikely to lie because they have every reason to lie and they didn't.
Is that what you're referring to?
They did not gain from carrying on to spread his word. So there's nothing to carry it on.
And historically, like for hundreds of years, historians from all kinds of backgrounds, Christian, non-Christian, Jew, non-Jew, they all agreed that Christ was crucified, was resurrected, like they all agreed that it happened until 600, 700 years later, someone who wasn't there, didn't see it, there's no links to him, from him to anything that happened. He all of a sudden claims, that actually it wasn't Jesus, it was someone else, and he wasn't killed. God wouldn't want to kill Jesus.
Okay.
So like that is way less believable. That's way less plausible than what historians have hundreds of years agreed on.
Okay.
It doesn't make it. That
So let
makes zero sense.
me understand what you've said so far. Inspiration, prophecy, they're really faith such as unshakable when there's nothing to gain. Yep. Unprofitable faith, but they still believed in it. And on that you're saying the historical, anonymous consensus of the historians, which shows crucifixion is true, and Quran or Islam came 600 years later and goes against this predominant narrative. All of these four, let me try to address one by one. Inspiration. I do not see Luke, the author of the Gospel of Luke, inspired by his own very words. For as many has undertaken, he starts his Gospel, verse 1. He says, it seems good to me also that I should write an orderly account for my most excellent Theophilus, being the very first, someone who could examine and so on, speaking to eyewitnesses and so on. So this is my paraphrase of verse 1 of Luke. Ask any historian or New Testament commentator, they will tell you Luke is not talking about any kind of inspiration from the Holy Spirit or God. He's simply saying, I am writing because there are many people writing, number one. Many people are writing about Christ. It seemed good to me also, meaning he also thought it's good to write also, because he could write an orderly account, because he also had his sources, secondary and tertiary sources. He can gather information, and he's writing for his most excellent Theophilus. He is not writing under inspiration. So the whole idea that the Gospels were written by inspiration, Luke tells us otherwise. Okay, maybe you believe something different, but that's my take on reading the Gospel of Luke. Secondly, prophecies. Prophecies. There are many prophecies Christ made. The New Testament scholars themselves are struggling to understand, or the Bible makes, that where is that fulfillment? Some of them say it's not fulfilled yet. On his second coming, it will be fulfilled. Do you know something about that? Yes. That he will fulfill. That means prophecies are unfulfilled. But your getaway clauses, it will be fulfilled later. But I am saying there are prophecies in the Bible that I read, they are invented, made up by the gospel writers. Let me give you an example. Matthew, the first gospel in your New Testament, he invents a prophecy. He says, as was spoken by the prophets, he shall be called a Nazarene. These wordings are wordings like a prophecy. You'll see he makes many prophecies. We go to the Christian scholarship and we ask them, for the last 2,000 years, have you found that prophecy spoken by the prophets? 2,000 years of your Christian scholarship, they still haven't found that there was a prophecy spoken by the prophets in which Christ will be called a Nazarene. A clear-cut fabrication, concoction, invention by the author of the gospel called Matthew.
So you're saying that...
Let me deal with one by one, and you can come back to it. You can come back to it. I am saying such a prophecy doesn't exist anywhere in the entirety of the Old and the New Testament. It doesn't simply exist. Matthew just made it up. Then you said about people having no gain of anything but still believe in it. There are many religions, including Islam. People at that time had nothing to gain because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did not become a king. He had nothing. When he died, he left nothing. And it for his pillow. Wait. If you check his possession, he had a brick for his pillow and a date palm stalks for his bed. A handful of maybe grains of barley or something like this for the food. That's all. He was not a king lavishly living like a king. Nothing left, right? So his followers only had the belief in one true God, and when the Prophet passed away, they had nothing to gain politically, economically, because the Quran tells us the poor has a right over your wealth. Give 2.5% of your surplus wealth to the poor and the needy. So religions or ideologies other than Christianity, you can have faith communities and cult communities. They will die for their founder of the faith. So just because someone subscribes to a religion or a cult or a faith or a belief system and adheres to it without any gain, it doesn't make that religion true. Then you came to the point about crucifixion, the last point. Historically, crucifixion was never a consensus of any community. Today, historians are not anonymous in their consensus that crucifixion and resurrection happened. Ask any historian on planet Earth, do you believe this is a historical event? They will say you no. It's a faith claim. We do not agree resurrection happened, but excuse me. Let me finish my statement. I heard you saying crucifixion and resurrection. Excuse me. You said crucifixion and resurrection, and I said no historian on planet Earth believes resurrection is a historical event. And the reason is quite simple. Because historians, by their methodological framework, they are methodologically naturalists. They don't believe in miracles. That means a resurrection which defies natural law cannot have happened.
Do you believe in miracles?
Excuse me, I'm talking about historians. You brought in the reliability of your belief or truth.
Basing your metrics on what they
Please. I'm addressing your point. In your time, you can come back to it, right? You said crucifixion was an anonymous event. Historians believed in the crucifixion and resurrection. I am saying this is ill-founded, not based on knowledge and facts and reality. Historians question that this is never the reality of things because they don't believe in the resurrection historically ever happened because they are naturalists. They don't believe that you can come out from your dead. Once you die, that's it. So, crucifixion was it a historical event? We have historical documents long before Islam that talks about Christ did not get crucified. Your church fathers, like Irenaeus and others, talked about it, that Christ did not die by physical crucifixion. There's a community that believed in it. In fact, they believed, a good group of community, it was Simon the Cyrene who was carrying the cross, was crucified. There is narration like this. Jesus is on the top of the tree. He is watching and saying, look at these people. They are crucifying the wrong man. They're crucifying Simon the Cyrene. And he's laughing. I'm here, Jesus Christ. So historical evidence goes against such a consensus that crucifixion was a consensus event in all of history. Rather, What the Quran, what, are you listening? Are you listening? What the Quran says rather, I don't think you are listening. What the Quran rather says, the Quran does not deny a crucifixion of some kind taking place. Did you even know that? The Quran, that's why you haven't read the Quran. Let me tell you what the Quran says. Quran says, there are people who boast that we have killed the Messiah, the son of Mary. But the Quran says, no. You have killed him not. You have not crucified him. You have certainly did not kill him. But it appeared to them so. But God raised him up. So that means the Quran, I'm not interested in speaking to you, a toxic individual, go somewhere else. So now,
I want to hear what he's got to say.
okay, speak to him, I go somewhere else. Remember what I said in the very beginning of the discussion? There are people here that I even have to report to the police because of the toxicity. Toxicity.
I don't understand.
Watch the videos in Speaker's Corner. Go and chat Speaker's Corner.
Look, if there's anything toxic now, you can go.
I'm sorry, the discussion, I'll end this conversation with you if you don't want. If you don't want to speak to me, I'll end this conversation here. If you want to speak to me, then I kindly ask you that stop interjecting hecklers in our discussion.
Well, he asked if you could...
I don't care he asked us not, because I don't want to speak to him. Do you respect my wishes?
He doesn't seem disrespectful.
Do you respect my wishes or not?
Okay, fine. Answer this one thing then.
No, okay, well, so I'm continuing finishing my answer. Crucifixion, the Quran doesn't deny. Quran says it wasn't Christ that was crucifixion.
Exactly.
You made 4 points and I had to address these 4 points. If you have that level of patience, excuse me, Ralph and George, if that is the level of your patience, like a TikTok generation, I'm not shouting, I'm answering. Wait, you come down. If this is the level of your patience and attention span, then I ask you to go and bit more
Please, can I just say one
learning.
Listen, can I just say one thing to you? The way this started was how I intended it to go. Which is I say something, you say something, there's a response. Oh, that's interesting. Blah, blah, blah. I even wrote some stuff down. Yeah, I'll research that.
Do you want me to respond to your points?
But right now, what you're doing is you're going.
You don't like it, do you?
No, listen. You're going on a long rant and you're preaching now to the audience.
Was I preaching or was I answering your question?
And it's like I've got stuff to say.
Let me ask you a friend, George. Was I preaching or answering the questions?
This conversation has changed from a...
Did I answer the questions or was I preaching?
As a pleasant exchange.
1 second. Was I preaching or answering the questions, point by point? Look, whatever you say is going to record it for posterity, maybe for millions of years, who knows? So speak wisely. Speak wisely. So did I respond to your questions point by point, or am I preaching?
You are preaching.
Okay. I don't want to preach. End of conversation. You take care. No, I don't want another conversation. Which one is yours? You can take it. Thank you.